Our next witness is Lieutenant Josh Fryday. Lieutenant Fryday is a member of the Judge Advocate General Corps in the United States Navy. He's currently stationed in Washington, D.C. at the Office of the Chief Defense Counsel for Military Commissions. In addition to his legal duties, Lieutenant Fryday served in the Navy's humanitarian aid and disaster relief effort following the tsunami and nuclear disaster in Japan. Prior to joining the Navy, Lieutenant Fryday worked in San Francisco District Attorney's Office and the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Illinois. He received his BA in Political Science and Philosophy from the University of California at Berkeley, where he graduated Phi Beta Kappa. He received his JD from the University of California Berkeley School of Law. Lieutenant Fryday, thank you for being here today, and please proceed.
Thank you, Chairman Durbin, Ranking Member Cruz, and members of the committee for inviting me today to testify. I am grateful for the opportunity to share my experiences with you. While the Office of the Chief Defense Counsel for the Military Commissions is aware that I am testifying today, my statement is based on my own personal experience and knowledge and does not reflect the views of my office, the Navy, or the Department of Defense. Over the past year, I've been assigned under military orders to serve as military defense counsels for individuals detained in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. As you know, there are 166 remaining. I represent one of them, and his name is Mohammed Kamin. People often ask me if it is difficult representing a detainee in Guantanamo. I am proud to live in a country where my commander-in-chief can order me to perform such a challenging mission. My colleagues, prosecutors, and defense lawyers alike are patriots who love their country. We are taught in the military to perform our duties with honor, courage, and commitment. And I am here today doing my duty to talk to you about my client's indefinite detention in Guantanamo Bay. My client has now been detained by our government for over 10 years. After 5 years of detention, in 2008, he was charged with material support for terrorism. In 2009, the military commission process halted, and the charges against him were dismissed. A recent D.C. Circuit Court decision, Hamdan versus the United States, held that material support for terrorism is now no longer a crime that he or anyone detained prior to 2006 can ever be tried for in a military commission. I am not here today to ask for sympathy for a man I was ordered to represent, but I would like to tell you a little bit about him. He is an Afghan citizen with a third-grade education received in a Pakistani refugee camp his family went to after fleeing the Russian invasion. He was roughly 22 years old when he was detained, although he doesn't know his exact age. He has a son who was 6 months old when he last saw him in 2003, and he has never been charged with harming anyone, either Afghan or American. Had my client been brought to federal court instead of Guantanamo, he could have and would have been tried years ago. Since 9/11, nearly 500 terrorists had been convicted in federal courts. In the Guantanamo military commissions, 6. Now, after a decade of detention with no crime he can be charged of, he sits in Guantanamo, imprisoned indefinitely. My client has asked me how it is possible for my government to detain him for over 10 years without proving he committed a crime. I try my best to explain that there are people in our government who believe under the laws of war we are allowed to detain people indefinitely until the war is over. He then asked me, "You will no longer be at war with Afghanistan after 2014. Can I go home then? Or does this war never end?" As a service member and an attorney sworn to uphold the Constitution and our strong legal conditions, I don't have good answers for him. If my client is guilty of a crime, he should be tried and given his day in court. So I thank this committee for your willingness to listen to his story today. For as long as he is in Guantanamo, no judge or jury ever will. We are a nation of laws and a people of principle. Denying my client a trial and detaining him indefinitely is at odds with our oldest values. On the eve of our Revolutionary War, we held trials for British soldiers responsible for the Boston Massacre. Our founding father, John Adams, served as one of the British soldiers' defense lawyers. But today, even basic due process in Guantanamo is denied, including the opportunity to confront your accusers, be presented with evidence against you, and have access to counsel. Our threats are real. Criminals and terrorists should be prosecuted and jailed. Our enemies must know that we will bring them to justice no matter what. But as a people guided by principle and the rule of law, we can do better than indefinite detention. For centuries, American service members have fought and paid the ultimate sacrifice to protect the fundamental values that define our nation. We should strive to always be faithful to those values, especially when it is most challenging to do so.
Lieutenant Fryday, thank you for your compelling testimony. Thank you for service to our country, and thanks for reminding us what we're all about in this country. And when it comes to the rule of law, that reference to John Adams is one that just stands out in this man's biography. Before he was elected president, he was assigned to defend British soldiers who were accused of massacring American colonists. It's an indication of where we started as a nation, where we need to continue. You've had a foot in both camps. You've been a prosecutor in our criminal justice system at the federal level, and now you've been a defense counsel when it comes to military commissions.
I want to ask a question of Lieutenant Fryday, but in your past, did you serve as an intern in my San Francisco office, perchance?
Proudly, ma'am.
Well, I am very proud of you, so that's what I wanted to say.